Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, a violent weekend across Kern County. Our homicide rate continues to surge past the count from 2019, leaving authorities this morning searching for suspects in several crimes.
A dramatic dip in new numbers of reported coronavirus cases in Kern County over the weekend, but across the state, two key indicators are headed the opposite direction. We'll explain still ahead.
You see them everywhere these days, masks, but for some, these thin shields of protection do more harm than good. So what should you do if you're one of the thousands locally who struggle with lung disease? We'll have some recommendations on this Monday, July 27th, 2020. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen along with Alex Fisher. And it was a hot, toasty weekend. Although up here in the mountains, we had a nice breeze, which really helped things at least.
Yeah, definitely warmer than what we saw just a couple days ago. We're seeing the triple digits once again return in Kern County. The question is, how long will it last? Let's turn things over to Kevin Charette, who has a look at your forecast. So, Kev, are we going to see the triple digits for the next several days?
Well, we are, and we're going to get a little bit of a cool down for today. Now, yesterday's high, as you can see, was 103, so it was a warm afternoon. Today, we should be able to trim that back at least a couple of degrees. We've got clear skies out there right now for you around Kern County, and that's the way we're going to keep it as we go throughout the day. We've got a current temperature of 75. No winds, just a light breeze expected as we go throughout the day. Take a look at our dog walk forecast, and you can see we start in the lower 80s, and then as we progress into the afternoon, that's where we start to warm up. By 2 o'clock, we'll be in the upper 90s. So best to get that walk in this morning. Tehachapi sits at 57 right now. No winds, a light breeze expected this afternoon. You can see we start out in the 60s throughout the afternoon. We'll be rising into the upper 80s, and there'll be some lower 90s out there as well. I'll have much more in your pinpoint forecast, but first, we'll send it back over to you.
All right, Kev, thanks so much. It was a violent weekend in Kern County over the weekend, and new this morning, we begin with a person in the hospital after being shot in central Bakersfield overnight. Police say the shooting happened near 2nd and F Streets just after 11 p.m. However, the person shot was found in front of a 7-Eleven at Chester Lane and A Street. Police say the victim was taken to the hospital. Officers also say a bullet went through the window of a home on Verde Street, but no one inside the home was hurt.
This morning, officers continue investigating a stabbing that left one person dead in northeast Bakersfield. The sheriff's office says it happened yesterday at a home on Eucalyptus Drive near Fairfax Road. Officers say they found that man with several stab wounds and he later died. At this time, there's no information on the attacker. And if you have any information on this case, you're asked to contact KCSO at 861-3110.
A man is behind bars for reportedly killing one of his family members in Mojave. Officers say the shooting happened on Saturday on 15th Street. That's near Trotter Avenue. KCSO says officers found a man dead with gunshot wounds. KCSO says they've arrested 34-year-old Michael Shinsky on homicide charges. Officers say Shinsky killed one of his family members. He is being charged with first-degree murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and being under the influence of a controlled substance.
A crash near the airport left a man with major injuries. According to CHP, a dirt bike and a black Chevy truck crashed on Pine Meadow Drive near Airport Drive around 9:30 last night. From the video, it appears the dirt bike crashed into the truck's rear side door. We don't know what caused the crash. At least one person was taken to the hospital with major injuries. And Bakersfield police are cracking down on illegal street racing in our community. According to BPD, on Saturday night, they received several calls reporting street racing. Officers made 13 traffic stops, issuing 7 citations and impounding 5 cars. BPD says officers were focusing on reckless driving as well, and police are now investigating 2 cases where vehicles evaded officers in what they say was a disregard for public safety.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus here in Kern County and a drop in new reported cases from the past week. Kern County Public Health announced 369 new cases yesterday. Since the pandemic began, there have been more than 14,000 positive tests. Of those, more than half are considered active. Over 8,900 people are recovering at home and 174 people are currently hospitalized. Our death toll still stands at 123. And new COVID-19 numbers out from the California Department of Public Health. CDPH says the state's positivity rate is trending upward on the 14-day average. Hospitalizations are also rising. Just like Kern, the state's numbers may not represent true day-to-day change. CDPH says test results may be delayed. That's why they suggest you look at the 7-day average, which Public Health says is more accurate describing trends. The average 7-day number of new cases is over 9,800. The 7-day average prior was 9,100 new cases. Over 8,100 Californians have died since the beginning of this pandemic. At this time, 36 counties, including Kern, are required to shut down indoor operations for certain industries.
As California continues to lead the charge on mask mandates, a select group of individuals are asking for a little leeway. 17's Taylor Schaub is joining us live this morning with that story. Taylor?
Well, good morning, Maddie. It's a mandate in the state of California. Wear a mask if you're within 6 feet of somebody. But what happens when you're struggling to breathe? How should you proceed? To wear a mask or to not wear a mask. It's a debate that's divided our country. But for people with asthma and other chronic lung conditions, it's a dilemma, one that could place them in harm's way, regardless of the decision they make.
It's very difficult.
Meet Jo Law. She's one of the more than 50,000 asthma sufferers in the Golden Empire. She says wearing a mask is almost impossible due to her chronic asthma and COPD.
It's terrible. It feels like you're actually drowning and like you feel like a guppy out of the water.
Carol Donati has had the same experience, trying a dozen or so masks.
Kind of like a fish out of water, and it just obstructs my breathing. And about 5 minutes after I have them on, I have to pull them down under my nose.
According to the CDC, both could be eligible to get an exemption from California's mask mandate. But as pulmonary physician Dr. Amy Mentha tells me, it's not that simple.
They're at a much higher risk of getting a severe form of COVID-19.
Creating a sort of double-edged sword, which is why Dr. Mentha has mixed feelings when it comes to the guidance.
I still would hesitate on giving someone a mask exemption.
Here in Kern County, the issue is only heightened. Thousands suffer from chronic lung disease, and as we know, the air quality is routinely poor. In fact, Bakersfield has received an F grade in these major categories from the 2020 American Lung Association State of the Air report. Add in a recent Harvard study that states people who've lived for decades in a county with higher levels of air pollution are 8% more likely to die from the disease, and the decision becomes increasingly difficult.
This is not safe for people in this condition to be wearing masks.
However, Dr. Mentha says these pre-existing conditions are yet another reason to wear a mask or simply stay home.
If you absolutely cannot tolerate wearing a mask for any length of time and your lung disease is that severe, I just recommend that you self-isolate at home.
But what if you can't stay home? Well, Dr. Mentha says a face shield can work as an alternative, something that's helped Law immensely.
They're excellent. I can now work in them. I don't break out in a sweat. I don't feel like I'm suffocating.
However, Mentha cautions.
It is not as protective as wearing a mask.
And Mentha says before you take any course of action, consult your doctor. In Southwest Bakersfield, Taylor Schaub, 17 News.
All right, thank you, Taylor. And if you're one of the some 5,300 people who have recovered from COVID-19 here in Kern County, you can help others in their battle. When you recover from the virus, your body develops antibodies that boost your immune system. And if you donate your blood plasma after that, it can help other patients as well. But even though more than 5,000 people have recovered, only about 100 have donated plasma. That's according to a Houchin Community Blood Bank. So to motivate the thousands of potential donors, Houchin is offering gift cards. If you've recovered and you donate your convalescent plasma, you'll get a $50 gift card to a local restaurant. Houchin will also have 2 drawings a day for $500 gift cards. It's happening today through Saturday. If you're interested in donating, call 616-2575.
Welcome back. Terrifying moments for one family after a 2-year-old girl nearly drowned in East Bakersfield. According to KCSO, they responded to a home on Edison Highway for a child that fell into a pool. The girl was taken to the hospital, and at this time it is unclear what her exact condition is, but KCSO says she was breathing on her way to the hospital. With the weather heating up, this is a very important reminder to make sure you keep an eye on your kids around the pool or any body of water, and make sure you have gates installed that can be secured so that you can prevent a tragedy like this. Well, today is the last day for you to weigh in on the proposed Hard Rock Casino in Mettler. The casino continues to move forward, reaching new milestones. With the completion of a draft environmental impact statement for the hotel and casino, it represents a significant step forward in the $600 million project. The EIS is used to measure potential impacts the project could have on the surrounding area. The project is set to cover 306 acres of land. According to the draft EIS, the hotel and casino will not have a significant impact on water resources. The public has until today to submit a comment on the draft EIS.
Looking ahead, tomorrow is expected to be a jam-packed Board of Supervisors meeting. County leaders are expected to discuss the county's response to COVID, but that's not all. 17th Tom Wallace has a preview.
Yeah, jam-packed is a good way to describe this meeting because a number of issues are set to be addressed, from the fire fund to homelessness to the coronavirus. Staffing. It's a major issue facing hospitals across the state, including right here in Kern County. The issue is especially prevalent now when local leaders are warning about hospitals reaching their limits.
All the hospitals are at the point of max capacity, and we're now beginning to implement these surge plans to be able to care for the people in our community.
But in the event of such a surge, hospitals need nurses. And that's why supervisors are set to consider a plan Tuesday to bring in 84 ICU nurses from across the country through at least November. But it's not going to be cheap. They anticipate a cost up to $12 million, and that will be paid for with Federal CARES Act funding. Even if some or all of the nurses are not ultimately needed in the event Kern stays below its ICU surge capacity, Kern Medical CEO Russell Judd says it's better safe than sorry.
Much rather to have the staff available than to put ourselves in a situation where individuals need care and it cannot be provided.
Another issue? Homelessness. Supervisors are expected to hear about the county's new Navigation Homeless Center, now operating for just over 2 months. And then there's the Fire Fund. County leaders are expected to discuss methods to increase the fund's revenue by roughly $10 million. In Bakersfield, Tom Wallace, 17 News.
And in our nation's capital this morning, Washington prepares for its final goodbye. Preparations are underway for the public viewing of Representative John Lewis. Barricades were being set up to help guide what's expected to be a long line of mourners who want to pay their respects to the late congressman. NBC's Tracy Potts has more.
Control legislation to the House.
John Lewis, congressman, civil rights icon, crossing over the Edmund Pettus Bridge one last time.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world.
55 years after he first crossed this bridge on what became known as Bloody Sunday.
They beat him with billy clubs, fracturing his skull. But John was determined to fight for equality and justice.
Today, his body arrives in Washington to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, where Lewis served for 33 years as Georgia's congressman.
John's life was about that. One nation, one country, one destiny. More perfect union.
His family joins colleagues for a ceremony here. Then the casket will be moved outside to the East Capitol steps for socially distanced public viewing today and tomorrow. Lawmakers want to honor his memory with action.
We need to pass the Voting Rights Act, and we need to make sure that all Americans that are eligible to vote can vote in 100 days.
A vote John Lewis died fighting for. Lewis's body heads home to Georgia on Wednesday morning, where he'll lie in state at the state capitol before a funeral at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King preached. He'll be buried in Atlanta. Tracy Potts, NBC News.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.